right. So, let's get into, day 12 of the trial. So, the judge in Donald Trump's hush money trial fined him $1,000 on Monday in his sternest warning yet. Let me just make sure, in his sternest warning yet, told the former president that future gag order violations could send him to jail. The reprimand opened a revelatory day of testimony as jurors for the first time heard the details of the financial transactions at the center of the case and saw payment checks bearing Trump's signature. All right. Testimony from former Trump Organization controller Jeffrey McConney provided a mechanical but vital recitation of how the company reimbursed payments that were allegedly meant to suppress embarrassing stories from surfacing during Trump's 2016 presidential campaign and then logged them as legal expenses in a manner that Manhattan prosecutors say broke the law. That's kind of sad that this is a tried and true process. I mean, how many of these payments did he make exactly? Makes you wonder if there were anybody else that we just don't know about. McConney's appearance on the witness stand came as the first criminal trial of a former U.S. president entered its third week of testimony. His account lacked the human drama offered Friday by longtime Trump aide Hope Hicks, but it nonetheless yielded an important building block for prosecutors trying to pull back the curtain on what they say was a corporate records cover-up of transactions designed to protect Trump's presidential bid during a pivotal stretch of the race. And that's the crux of the whole reason why this trial's even taking place. That the corporate cover-up of these transactions. People keep referring to it as the hush money case. It's not about the hush money. It's about the cover-up of the hush money. And as for the drama offered Friday, apparently Hope Hicks broke down crying. She apparently was forced, so she must have been subpoenaed. But, I'm assuming that the drama was that she actually cried on the stand. The idea that she has to tell the truth and basically screw over Trump, but at the same time, she didn't want to. Anyway, at the center of the testimony in the case itself is a $130,000 payment Trump's then lawyer and fixer, Michael Cohen, made to porn actor Stormy Daniels in October 2016 to stifle her claims of an extramarital sexual encounter with Trump a decade earlier. The 34 felony counts of falsifying business records accuse Trump of labeling the money paid to Cohen in his company's records as legal fees. Prosecutors contend that by paying him income and giving him extra to account for taxes in monthly installments for a year, the Trump executives were able to conceal the reimbursement. McConney and other witnesses testified that all but 2 of the monthly checks were drawn from Trump's personal account. Yet even as jurors saw the checks and other documentary evidence, prosecutors did not elicit testimony Monday showing that Trump himself dictated that the payments would be logged as legal expenses, a designation that prosecutors contend was intentionally deceptive. All right. So I guess that could be a problem that nobody has said that Trump said make these legal expenses, but two people have testified that he is such a micromanager that I can't imagine that he wasn't the one who said it. Anyway, McConney acknowledged during cross-examination that Trump never asked him to log the reimbursements as legal expenses and never discussed the matter with him at all. Another witness, Deborah Tarasov, a Trump Organization accounts payable supervisor, said under questioning that she did not get permission to cut the checks in question from Trump himself. Oh, there is some wiggle room for Trump's legal team here. All right. You never had any reason to believe that President Trump was hiding anything or anything like that? Trump attorney Todd Blanche asked. Correct, Tarasov replied. The testimony followed Judge Juan Merchan's sober warning to Trump that additional violations of a gag order barring inflammatory, out-of-court comments about witnesses, jurors, and others closely connected to the case could land the former president behind bars. The $1,000 fine imposed Monday marks the second time since the trial began last month that Trump has been sanctioned for violating the gag order. He was fined $9,000 last week, $1,000 for each of 9 violations. Oh, wow, my allergies are wonderful. It appears that the $1,000 fines are not serving as a deterrent. You think? Therefore, going forward, this court will have to consider a jail sanction, Merchan said before jurors were brought into the courtroom. Trump's statements, the judge added, threaten to interfere with the fair administration of justice and constitute a direct attack on the rule of law. I cannot allow that to continue. Trump sat forward in his seat, glowering at the judge as he handed down the ruling. When the judge finished speaking, Trump shook his head twice and crossed his arms. Oh, sounds like a child. Okay. Yet, even as Merchan warned of jail time in his most pointed and direct admonition, he also made clear that his reservations about a step that he described as a last resort and said he would only do so if prosecutors recommended it. Which, I have mixed emotions about that. I mean, granted, he should have been in jail a long time ago, because let's face it, the average Joe would not have been given the leeway he has. But at the same time, he could just use that for fundraising. So, the last thing I want to do is put you in jail, Merchan said. Why? Seriously, why is that the last thing you want to do? You are the former president of the United States and possibly the next president as well. Well, aren't you just Mary Sunshine? There are many reasons why incarceration is truly a last resort for me. To take that step would be disruptive to these proceedings, which I imagine you want to end as quickly as possible. If it were up to him, it never would have happened to begin with. The latest violation stems from an April 22nd interview with television channel Real America's Voice, in which Trump criticized the speed at which the jury was picked and claimed without evidence that it was stacked with Democrats. Now, if we're going by percentages, there is a good chance that most, if not all, are, because this is Manhattan. But except for that, you're just assuming. There is no reason to assume. And even if they were Democrats, the fact is that they need to follow the evidence, not their political party. No. They can't say, oh, this will help Biden if we find him guilty. That's not the way this works. And besides, Trump can still run for president from prison. So even if they did find him guilty, that is not necessarily going to hurt him. I mean, it might hurt him a little. There are plenty of people who would not want to vote for a convicted felon. But at the same time, there are so many people who are upset with Biden. Granted, they have every right to be. But there's so many people upset with Biden that Trump might end up winning by default. You know, it's a matter of which is worse, a convicted felon or someone who doesn't seem to be trying really hard to stop Bibi from killing all the Palestinians. Because let's face it, I mean, granted, the world and the U.S. are saying don't attack Rafah, but the fact that they even got to this point, you know, it's like, okay, you leveled practically all of Gaza, you can stop now. Isn't a good look either. So anyway, once testimony resumed, McConney recounted conversations with longtime Trump Organization finance chief Allen Weisselberg in January 2017 about reimbursing Cohen for a $130,000 payment intended to buy Daniels' silence over her account of a sexual encounter at a 2006 celebrity golf outing in Lake Tahoe, California. Weisselberg said we had to get some money to Michael. We had to reimburse Michael. He tossed a pad toward me and I started taking notes on what he said, McConney testified. That's how I found out about it. He kind of threw the pad at me and said, "Take this down," said McConney, who worked for Trump's company for about 36 years, retiring last year after he was granted immunity to testify for the prosecution at the Trump Organization's New York criminal tax fraud trial. A bank statement displayed in court showed Cohen paid $130,000 to Keith Davidson, Daniels' lawyer, on October 27, 2016, out of an account for an entity Cohen created for the purpose. Weisselberg's handwritten notes spell out the plan to pay Cohen $420,000, which included a base reimbursement that was then doubled to reflect anticipated taxes, as well as $60,000 bonus, and an expense that prosecutors have described as a technology contract. Okay. McConney's own notes, taken on the notepad he said Weisselberg threw at him, were also shown in court. After calculations that laid out that Cohen would get $35,000 a month for 12 months, McConney wrote "wire money from DJT." Asked what that meant, McConney said that was out of the president's personal bank account. McConney testified that he had instructed Tarasov to record the reimbursements to Cohen as a legal expense, reasoning that we were paying a lawyer, so I said to post it as a legal expense in the general ledger. This could be a little tricky for the prosecution because it was McConney's idea to write it down as a legal expense, not Trump. So, they seem to be successfully making holes in the prosecution's case. Also, Hope Hicks on Friday testified that that Trump ordered that newspapers don't be sent to the penthouse to Trump Tower because he didn't want Melania to know about the scandal. So, yeah, they're doing a good job poking holes at the prosecution's argument. You know, it could be that Trump told them to do this, but the logistics might not have been completely under his control, which at the same time, people have said he's a micromanager. So this is a tough one. I could see jurors at this point finding him not guilty. I could totally see how they could do that. I hope they don't, but I can see where holes are being poked. McConney suggested it was his idea alone to log the payments that way, acknowledging under cross-examination that Trump never directed him to log Cohen's payments as legal expenses, nor did Weisselberg relate to him that Trump wanted them logged that way. Allen never told me that, McConney testified. In fact, McConney said he never spoke to Trump about the reimbursement issues at all. Regardless, Trump lawyer Emil Bova suggested the legal expense label made sense and was not duplicitous because Cohen was a lawyer at the time. Well, that's technically correct. Okay, McConney responded, prompting laughter throughout the courtroom. Yes, sure, yes. Oh my God. McConney's like, yeah, sure, okay. Yeah, that's what was happening. All right, whatever. After paying the first 2 checks to Cohen through a trust, the remainder of the checks, beginning in April 2017, were paid from Trump's personal account, McConney testified. Okay. With Trump the only signatory to that account, now in the White House, the charge and funding source necessitated a whole new process for us, McConney added. Tarasov, the other witness who testified Monday, said that once Trump became president, checks written from his personal account had to first be delivered via FedEx to the White House for him to sign. The checks would then return with Trump's Sharpie signature. Him and a damn Sharpie. I'd pulled them apart, mail out the checks, and file the backup, she said, meaning putting the invoice into the Trump Organization's filing system. Prosecutors are continuing to build toward their star witness, Cohen, who pleaded guilty to federal charges related to the hush money payments, went to prison, and has been disbarred. He is expected to undergo a bruising cross-examination from defense lawyers seeking to undermine his credibility with jurors. I have to admit, as much as I want Trump to be found guilty, now I don't know exactly all the 34 charges against him, but if he didn't actually tell anyone to file it under legal expenses, unless they knew that, just instinctively knew that that's what he wanted because that's the kind of guy he is, this could be the opening Trump needs to get out of it. So, and for him to continue, after the trial, to say that, how horrible the trial was, how it was made up, how it was a witch hunt, and how they survived it. Because based on today, things don't look good for the prosecution. I might be missing something, but the whole purpose is that it was filed under legal expenses when it literally wasn't. So if he wasn't the one who wanted that, who said, file this as legal expenses, so nobody knows that I had anything to do with it. Yeah, that's the crux of their case. And this guy just single-handedly shot that case down. Like I said, I don't know all the 34 counts, so maybe I'm missing something. But this doesn't look good. This doesn't look good for the prosecution at all. All right. So, with that, that is the end of the article. So, with that, I don't have anything else for this video, so I will see you guys in the next one.